Hey y'all, welcome back to Convos with Bree. I'm Bree, BREE, and today is day 41 of the Visibility Challenge. Today I am reading my book for the second day of Young Writers Day, Fragile Minds and the Adults That Mold Them. When I left off, I had just had my first run in with a terrible teacher and we were heading off to recess. So we're going to pick right up from where we left off. Young Writers Day, Fragile Minds, and the Adults That Mold Them by Bree. Part 2. Recess did the trick. We all got back to class, refreshed, and took our seats. We were quiet, ready, and determined to have a better afternoon. She came in and went straight to her desk. She didn't say a word, and it felt weird. She looked calm, but didn't feel calm. It was eerie. Nothing happened, though. We got through our lessons, and before we knew it, we were done with her for the day. It all seemed like it was going to be fine, despite the fact that it didn't feel fine. Then she said my friend's name quietly and asked him to stay after class. I couldn't leave him there. It didn't feel right. I tried to lag behind. She waited, though. She waited, and then she told me to hurry up when I really started dragging my feet. I pretended not to notice that she was trying to rush me out, and I asked her if she needed any help with the classroom. I was looking for any excuse not to leave. She said no and to get to class. They needed the room to discuss grades. He looked at me and nodded. It was okay. I needed to get out of there. He would be okay. I couldn't leave, but I had to. So I left. What she didn't know was that I stayed right outside the door. When I walked around the corner to hide, I found out that some of our friends had the same feeling. They were waiting too. We looked at each other knowingly and stayed quiet. We listened hard to make sure that he was okay, but he wasn't okay. We heard it first, the sound of the chair sliding across the floor and slamming into the wall. One of our friends immediately jumped up when he peeked through the window. His face turned pale. I realized he was scared of what he saw. I had never seen him scared before, ever. He was my wildest, bravest friend. He whispered to me to look now. I realized he was trying not to scare the other kids. I slowly stood up and walked quietly to the door. I got up on my tiptoes to see in. She was too close to his face like before. She was quiet again. She had him pinned up against the wall, and this time he was in the chair. She was leaning over him in the chair, and his arms were gripping the armrests. I couldn't stop staring at his wrists. Why wasn't he moving his hands? What was on his wrists? On the chair? And then I realized that he had duct tape around his wrists. My heart was pounding in my chest. It felt like it was about to beat through. Everything in me wanted to start screaming no. It made me so sick even thinking about it now. His face. I will never forget the fear in his face. He was crying, not sobbing, not out of control. These were tears he was fighting to stop, tears he never wanted to fall. Slow, awful tears that seeped out and slid down his cheeks. He was trying to keep his cool. He was trying not to show his fear, but it was creeping out of his eyes and in his body language. He was so tense. It wasn't right. This was going to get worse. I could feel it. The next thing I knew, I was in the classroom. I don't remember opening the door. I don't remember moving my body through the threshold. All of my friends were gone, but I don't remember them leaving. All I know is that one minute I was in the hallway watching this happen, and the next I am standing in that room I spent so much of my fourth grade life in, but it didn't feel the same anymore. She wasn't just scary anymore. She looked like a monster to me now. I was devastated, and the energy in that room, the energy, it was like nothing that I had ever felt. The room was filled with a mix of hate and fear that, up until this very moment, I had never felt in my entire life. At the same time, though, I felt prepared, like I always knew that this moment would come. And when it came, it wasn't a feeling that was going to make a quick exit from my life. I was staring at my friend dead in the eyes, and I took a deep breath in and out. I did it again and looked at him hard. I wanted him to feel what I was saying, and what I was saying was, breathe with me. Pull yourself together because we have got to get out of here. I will not leave. Nothing bad will happen with me here. I was not going to let anything bad happen to him, no matter what. He looked at me and the tears started falling faster. I shook my head slightly no, and I breathed in again. This time he did it with me. Message received. And the time that it took my brain to catch up and realize that my body had moved into the war zone, she had pulled the tape off his wrists. It was off the second I came through the door. I glanced at her quickly and noticed that it was still balled in her hands. She had taken it off, balled it up, and started walking towards the trash can the second that that door opened. She realized it was me and not an adult on her way over. She tossed it in and asked me what I needed. Like everything was just fine. Like this was just normal. Just be cool, Bree. I wouldn't look at her. I kept my eyes locked on my friend and said that I needed him for a project. Our teacher told me to come get him right away. We couldn't start until he came back. I nodded at him to get up and come with me. He stood up and she grabbed his wrist so hard and pulled him behind her. She got right up into my face for the second time that day and said, "Go back to your class now, you disrespectful little bitch." It shocked me to my core. It shouldn't have, but it did. I never expected anyone to talk to me like that. I mustered up more courage than I ever knew I had, and I looked her dead in the eyes. I balled my fists and said, "Then I guess I'll have to tell him what is happening in here. If looks could kill, I'd be dead." She laughed, just a little disbelief, shock. I think that's what it was. She let go of his wrist. She turned and walked back to her desk. She sat down and said, "Go." She never looked at us again. It should have felt like a win. We stood up to the bully. The good guys always win. Instead, it felt like the calm before the storm. She broke us both. She broke a lot of kids. She put some real awful trauma into our lives. And honestly, life would have been a lot better without it, without her. We knew we deserved so much better than her, but this was what we had. We made the best out of it, and hey, at least we banded together. After that, she left us alone for the most part, Every time I would see her after that, she would tell me with her eyes that it wasn't over. She wasn't forgetting and she wasn't impressed. This wasn't the last of it, but I was determined to get through this. I had always been a good kid. I didn't make waves around her because her energy scared me. Up until that day, I wanted her to like me. I would do anything that she needed. I would erase the board and clean up the room, pick up the chairs, whatever I could to help. I didn't want to be on her radar when she was mean. It had been successful up until I finished my test early. The nerve, and barged in on her. Suddenly, all the good things that I had done were for nothing. I was officially on her list. I kept my head down. I was quiet. I got in and out of her class each day. Maybe she would just forget, move on. That worked until Young Writers Day. I'm going to keep this one a little short today because that story is very heavy, and the next one is as well. When I was writing this, that was one of the hardest parts for me to write because not only was that the real start to everything else that happens in this book, but I think about both of those friends that I talk about, my bravest, wildest friend, and my friend that she actually duct taped to the chair. And both of them have had such a difficult time with life. And they were both such incredible kids. And the one that I said was my bravest, wildest friend. He has taken care of me and looked out for me in ways that, like, since we were little, that I just, that kind, like, if you're a good human, you just do a lot of the things that he's done. And these teachers just missed it on both of them, how truly wonderful they really were. And they treated him like they were someone they were not. Did they have a lot of energy? Yes, but we all did. We were kids. Some of us just learned how to sit down and shut up faster than the others. And some of us were just looking for anything other than sit down and shut up. Did we need a little extra help with learning sometimes? Yes. But we should have been the kids that they wanted to sit down and help. It was just so crystal clear to me how wonderful we all were. And back then, it was like if you would not conform, you were just cast out. You were a bad kid. You were not deserving of a good teacher. And that's just fact because I saw that time and time again. And once they labeled you, there was no going back. And then it was so wild because I'm noticing now looking back, it was like the older we got, I guess there was always kind of this, but I noticed it more as we got older. It became like the teachers that did give us like what we needed and did see it on us, they truly became like the leaders of the bad kids. And it was like they just started putting all of them together. Like all of us would end up in the same classes, or I don't know. they could handle us, I guess. And then we had to be split up for the teachers that couldn't deal with us. Hmm. I know so many teachers like that now that were like part of our generation where all they want to do is the opposite of what this teacher did. And they want to take those kids that are labeled bad and they just want to pull them in and help them. And I think that it's just such a wild understanding that there's certain people that become teachers not to teach, but to control. And it's like the bullies that just want to keep being a bully and they don't have anywhere to do it. So they go to wherever they can, wherever they would be strong enough to be a bully. They're bigger, they're meaner, they have more power. We were in fourth grade, fourth grade. And as a mom, I can tell you that there is not a single thing that my child has ever done that would ever make me want to duct tape him to anything or put duct tape on his body in any way, shape, or form. There's never been a human in this world that has made me feel like that was necessary or what I wanted to do. I can't imagine being a grown ass adult and harming children the way that she did. And I look at so many people now that I don't know their stories where I saw them become these bullies. I saw them change after having her as a teacher. And I wonder how much they went through. I wonder what she did to them. Mm. Not everything makes sense. And this book is full of things that don't make sense. Hard times that should have never happened to any of us. And I wrote it because unlike my first book where it was pretty clear where I could take control of my own life, this one I had to look a little harder, a lot harder at times. And this one was more about the fact that terrible things can happen to really great humans and power and anger, frustration, greed, all of these negative emotions can morph into experiences put on us by others. None of us deserve that. But it also makes me think about what she had to have gone through to become this person. All right, y'all. That was day 2 of Young Writers Day. We'll pick up right where we left off tomorrow. And again, remember, if this is sparking something in you, just let it come up. Feel it. If it unlocks a memory where you weren't in control and somebody was changing your experience and putting things onto you or harming you, I encourage you to write it down or to find somebody safe to talk about it with, to book a convo, to whatever you need, to keep listening to the end because there's something for you here. But find your way to greet the memory, to let yourself align with yourself and hold your own hand and understand that your experience is real. It happened, but it wasn't meant for you to carry it forever. But right now, just feel it. Let it be real. Let it be there. Understand how much this has changed you. Sometimes all we have to do is just let ourselves hear it. And remember, y'all, nothing meant for you will miss you. And we can do something with absolutely every piece of our story.